Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Underdog Jonnie Rice, one of the nice guys of heavyweight boxing, has scored an upset against Michael Polite-Coffie, stunning the vaunted prospect who was 12-0 heading into this fight, stopping him in the fifth round of their fight, which was in Newark, New Jersey. And this was a fight where Rice, pretty much from the get-go, was in control. At times, he made Michael Polite-Coffie look out of ideas, flat-footed, and the right hand for Jonnie Rice, which is one of his best punches, was money all night. Ultimately, in the fifth round, the referee was forced to jump in after right hand after right hand after right hand. It was just a procession. Absolutely battered Michael Polite-Coffie. Jonnie Rice, huge upset win. He was a massive underdog with fans and also with the bookies. He gets the win here. Biggest win of his career and well deserved. He's one of these guys, and I've said it before, I said it in the pre-fight video. All the skills, he was going to make it tough. And he was in this fight if he was able to throw enough punches. And previously, this has been one of the things. He hasn't had the self-confidence or belief to follow through, let his hands go. Against F.A. Ajagba, didn't throw enough punches, was in that fight, was competitive for spots, but didn't let his hands go. Coming into this one, he said he wasn't going to hold back. And he didn't. Through that first round, he was the one landing the eye-catching shots. He was forcing Michael Polite-Coffie over the course of the first few rounds back. Michael Polite-Coffie, who was the heavy favourite heading into this one, wasn't able to pressure Rice. Rice, with his quickness, his movement, his boxing acumen in general, was managing the range well. He was able to just flummox Michael Polite-Coffie, who by their sort of third or fourth round, very speculative hooks, swinging wildly, just trying to land something because he wasn't having a lot of success. He wasn't able to, and this is the ironic thing, Rice and Michael Polite-Coffie, same height. Michael Polite-Coffie had the longer reach, 83 inches. But, you know, you would have thought by watching this fight that it was Rice who had the longer reach because he was the one who was able to seamlessly, long right hands, he was winning the battle of the jabs. He was just outworking Michael Polite-Coffie, racking up rounds. One or two closer rounds, but, you know, you could have had Jonnie Rice heading into that fifth round up 4-0. 3-1 probably was fair, but there was, I think it was the second or third round where it was quite close. But it was a case that Jonnie Rice, the right hand, that was the key weapon. His money punch, and it proved so in this fight. You know, the commentators were making some comments, I think it was the third or fourth round, was Jonnie Rice starting to get sort of a bit perturbed that he was throwing that punch, landing it with such regularity, because it was there all night. Michael Polite-Coffie just didn't keep his hands up. Jonnie Rice, when he was throwing it, he probably landed at least over half of those right hands, perhaps even higher. And towards the end of the fight, it was automatic. And that's ultimately what stopped the fight in the end. But yeah, I thought Michael Polite-Coffie, he looked a little off tonight, but that is down in part to Jonathan Rice, the way that he fought, and his skill set being a bit of a bad style matchup for Michael Polite-Coffie. And obviously, Rice was the underdog, and he was coming into this fight on a week's notice. But he had been in the gym. He was in pretty good shape. He was actually about 10 or 12 pounds heavier than he was for the Ajagba fight. What was that, a year ago? But he looked in shape. He looked in condition. Him and Coffie were both around 270 pounds. Rice 268, Coffie 271. And this, you know, I think heading into that fifth round, you could sort of see if he wasn't able to potentially stop him or at least bank a few more rounds, that potentially Jonnie Rice was, like the Dempsey-McKean fight, potentially going to start gassing out a little bit. Was starting to breathe a little bit heavier between rounds, and was it catching up with him? But ultimately, didn't matter because he got the job done. And the referee jumped in, I think, at the right time, because there was literally, 8 or 10 right hands just one after the other. It was just, you know, money for Rice all night. And one of the good guys of the heavyweight division, who's got a lot of time for YouTubers. I mean, he certainly is never shy to give me a comment or a quote ahead of this fight. He sent me a message saying that he'd been sparring with Michael Hunter last week. Also, Patrick Mailata. Mailata is a fellow countryman of mine. So he'd had some good rounds. And also earlier this year, he'd been in camp with Tyson Fury, got a few rounds in with him. So it's not like he was inactive, sitting on the couch, not doing anything. Answered the call. And this could sort of signal a turning point for his career. Heading into this fight, he was 13-6-1. He had been a likable loser in a lot of his fights against prospects like Dempsey McKinney. He was in that fight. I thought he was, if not winning it, was very close before he got stopped late in that fight. He gassed out, was taken out. He gave Aslanbek Makhmudov some tough rounds. He also fought Tony Yoka in Yoka's second fight. That was tough for Yoka. And obviously F.A. Ajagba took him the distance. So he's no mug, and I said this all ahead of the fight. He is one of these guys, he's got all the skills. Something, though, wasn't clicking for him, but he was able to put it all together, and he got a performance against a much vaunted prospect. Michael Polite-Coffie was being groomed as one of the next sort of heavyweights coming through at PBC. In the past year or so, he'd largely come out of not nowhere, but he'd, sort of scythed the path in 4 fights in the past year, where he'd looked good, increasingly better with each fight, got some impressive-looking knockouts, and he was originally meant to be facing Gerald Washington, which would have been, in my view, a much better style matchup than Jonathan Rice, because Rice is awkward, he boxes well, he moves, he's no mug. It was a different style matchup, and perhaps the wrong one for the way that Michael Polite-Coffie likes to fight. But I think, what next? I think Michael Polite-Coffie, he can certainly come again, but perhaps, on the defensive end, there's some improvement, because he just couldn't stay out of the way of the right hand, and obviously he will want to come back, get a win. Perhaps we'll see him in a sort of a similar level fight in about 6 or 9 months. He might have a fight in between, though. As for Jonathan Rice, well, this could be the point where his career turns. Maybe he will end up fighting Gerald Washington. Washington was originally meant to be the opponent here for Michael Polite-Coffie. I wouldn't mind seeing Jonathan Rice versus Gerald Washington. Washington sort of a bit faded now, but a big puncher. That's actually not a bad fight. It could slip in somewhere as a co-main event. I could see that working. But certainly Jonathan Rice, his profile is going to get a big boost off the back of this. And he deserves the credits and the plaudits that are coming his way. He has struggled in recent years against some of these guys that he wasn't necessarily worse than, because he had all the skills, he just couldn't put it together. But that belief was there from the beginning in this fight. And by round 2, you could actually see he had settled in, he looked comfortable. So I'm pleased for Jonnie Rice, because, as I say, one of the nice guys of the heavyweight division, always a lot of time and, generous with his time with YouTubers, including myself. But, good win. Maybe a Dominic Brazil, Gerald Washington. I think those sort of level of fights, that was probably, obviously, for Michael Polite-Coffie, those were the levels that he was targeting right now. Now that Coffey's taken that loss, why not slot Jonathan Rice in there? They may have an option for his next fight anyway. But what did you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.